Mercedes. So then if you don't mind advancing my slides, that would be great.
Sure.
So for some reason, I'm having internet difficulties this evening.
Okay.
So thank you everybody for your patience. But yes, my name is Carly Simon. Right now I'm a marketing consultant and copywriter. I've been a marketer for 25 years for nonprofits, college, higher education departments, as well as corporations. My most recent and current full-time position is I am a marketer for an international research journal company where I'm doing a lot of paid social media campaigns. Prior to that, it was a lot of organic social media campaigns. A lot of what you see me talking about today in our presentation is going to be rooted in psychology. So my degree is in psychology, and I really believe you can have the best return of investment on the time you put into social media when you build that groundwork for trust with your customers and building those relationships with those customers. Currently, I'm a consumer behavioral textbook author. So I'm writing a textbook for universities and also for the general public. Hopefully that will be released sometime soon. But again, what we really have to understand when we're doing social media is that there is that purposeful intentionality behind it to really try to make those customers kind of do the behaviors we want them to do when we're posting on social media. So we have to understand what their motivations are, what their needs, the benefits that they want, and the problems that they want solved for them that we can help them out with before we're actually selling our product or service to them. So I'm going to go ahead and stop video right now, and we're going to go ahead and advance the slide. So I really want to understand, who you are coming into this presentation and how I can help you. And I really like to base my presentations off of what your needs are. So what I would love to really see today, if you want to go ahead and submit in the Q&A box or the chat box, whichever is accessible for you, is what business industry are you in? So what industry target? Are you retail? Are you service? Are you healthcare? And are you a pre-venture entrepreneur or are you an existing business owner? So that would be really helpful in terms of kind of customizing today's presentation.
Yeah, if you could put that into the chat box, that would be great. This way everybody can see as well who's participating. We've got photography. We have somebody as independent design landscaper that owns their business. Career coaching, existing business and healthcare. Looks like most people have their own business. Carly, e-commerce. Yeah, some coaches, but a lot of existing businesses, some brand strategists, some copywriter, a mathematics and physics tutor. We do have some new business owners as well, and a number of people with e-commerce. All right, Simon, Carly is coming back on. I guess her internet is cutting her out again. We'll apologize for the technical difficulties, but she will be back on in just a moment. I see her coming in, and then I will get the slides up.
Okay, Mercedes, I am back on my phone here. So sorry about that. And thank you everybody for understanding.
So we have a lot of people who have put into the chat and Q&A. There's a lot of people that are already in business and a variety of businesses, Carly, but
Great.
there also are some new folks to business. Some people that already use social media, but really trying to grow their business, and others who are kind of new. So it's really a diverse a diverse set of participants.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm seeing that. Thank you so much.
All right.
So, okay, great. There are my slides. Fantastic.
Yep.
And then the big key question for today is, name one thing that you were hoping to come away with today. What was one thing you were hoping to learn from the presentation today then?
And put that into the chat box as well.
And then I'll take a look at what everybody's feedback is and see, if perhaps some of my slides are already containing some of the answers that you were hoping for. If not, I'll definitely try to see, if I can integrate that in as well.
So we have people wanting to see more about analytics, how to run some ads, how to reach more customers, the timing of when to do it, how to schedule messages.
Okay. All right. So let me address a few of those. So improving social media interaction. Okay, great. Some of these questions are definitely more related to strategy. But some of these can apply to the social media management. I actually do have kind of a social media strategy 101 webinar that I do as well. For those of you who are talking about doing paid social media ads, what I'm kind of doing today is a bit more on the organic side, but it's definitely factors that you need to take into account when you're running those paid social media ads. And I would definitely say if you're going to be doing paid social media ads, you absolutely should be implementing a lot of what I'm recommending as just the basics in today's presentation. Okay, great. Next slide, please.
Hold on. All right.
So what are we going to be actually talking about today? So really talking about time management and budgeting your time to make sure that you're getting the most for the time that you are investing, and really to get a better understanding of the percentage of the time you should be investing. And obviously, again, I'll go back to the paid social media ads because what I'm doing with the international business I'm working for right now to really do paid social media ads effectively, it is going to take you more time than having an organic strategy. Who's doing the managing of your social media accounts is vitally important. We're going to talk about having a checklist, content calendars, and what they're all about. This also definitely applies to strategy, which is the creation of SMART goals, talking about important parts of your budget, tracking your metrics. I know some of you and what you wanted to learn today was, about analytics and tracking your metrics. So we're going to talk about that, and they definitely relate to your SMART goals, and talking about just some key management tools that you should have, in your tool belt for implementing this. So those are all the things we're going to cover today. A couple other extra things as well. So next slide, please. And feel free throughout the presentation, if you have a question or an idea or something you want to share, with everybody here as a whole. This is what's really great about coming together as small business owners, is the sharing of ideas. Sometimes what works for one industry can work for another. And if you're not in direct competition with each other, it's really good, especially with social media, to be partnering together and cross-promoting each other. So now is really a great time to do some question asking, brainstorming together, and idea exchange. So let's launch with our tips that we have here. Tip number one, before you even go on social media, is making sure that you have the time for social media, because if you're not going to be making that time investment, your customer audience will be able to tell. How can they tell if you're not investing these 5 to 10 hours that you need to invest? Well, number one, they'll see that you're not giving enough time to the creation of your social media posts. So if they see lackluster graphic design posts, if they see not optimal images, they'll know you're not investing the right amount of time. If they see you only posting once a month, on Facebook, they'll know that you're really not going to be investing with them online as a customer. And also, most importantly, if you're not responding to their direct messages on your social media platforms, or if you're not responding to their comments, they will know that you're not investing. And so that's why it's really important that you understand how much time you need to invest to do it well. So even as somebody myself, who I've been a marketer and I'm doing other marketing platforms, right? Because you also have your email marketing platforms. If you're running physical ads anywhere, your Google ads, you need to also be able to factor all this in together. But ideally, you're spending 5 to 10 hours a week on social media marketing. 5% of that time for engaging with your customers. So again, what does that look like? That is, commenting on their comments, and that you want to do that in an authentic and general way. And to do that in an authentic and general way, that's going to take time as well too. 25% of your time should be researching and planning that social media strategy. So we'll talk a little bit about that later in regards to what those SMART goals look like and all the different roles that a potential social media manager should have. But that takes about 25% of your time. 20% of your time is for creating content. And so I think I told everybody in the beginning of this webinar, right, that my past experience is I've been a one-person marketing team. I absolutely know what it's like to kind of juggle everything, especially for a small nonprofit. It can be really time-consuming. But also, I've spent 3 years consulting with the Small Business Development Center. And so what I was seeing with my clients, for you as small business owners, is a lot of your concentration of your time is on creating content. And so I also wanted to make sure in this presentation that I'm reminding you, you also want to be curating content and sharing content that is doing and performing well from other channels as well. And you want to make sure you're investing 20% of your time in the creation of the content to ensure that it is going to be in that kind of attract phase, right, of your market funnel, that it's going to grab their attention, which is why it's important to really devote good time in the creation of your social media posts. Because if you can't attract them, they're not going to pause as they're scrolling through on their phone or rolling through on their desktop. 10% of time for team collaboration, whether that looks like from your team internally, right? So, if you have multiple departments within a retail store, right? So what is this team member doing? Or let's say you want to highlight an employee, or you have, multiple employees who help, and you want to generate some ideas in terms of highlighting a customer. Team collaboration could even be you're collaborating with somebody who's a potential nonprofit partner or another business partner who's not a direct competitor. So allotting time for that. And absolutely most importantly, 10% of your time for analytics. Because if you are continuing to post and not seeing, okay, well, this is doing really well, and this is why it's doing well, specifically, and I'm going to then therefore give my customers more of what they want, you may lose out on missed opportunities. Or if you're taking a look and seeing, okay, something's not performing well, why is that, right? And there could be a variety of variables that could cause something to not perform well. And then you have to experiment and tweak that. And the only way I can tell you you're going to achieve success is if you do the analytics, which we will talk a little bit about further later on. Next slide, please. So kind of going with the time investment, Sean Garner says, social media is not just an activity, it is an investment of valuable time and resources. And we will talk about resources during this webinar. Surround yourself with people who not just support you and stay with you, but also inform your thinking about ways to wow your online presence. And that really is what your customer audience is looking for right now. They're looking for captivating, novel things and things that are going to make them emotionally feel good. And so you want to make sure that you're getting good feedback, from your management team, from your employee team. And if you are just a solo entrepreneur, that you're getting feedback from your family and friends, or maybe even testing something out in social media, right? And asking what your customer base is thinking about, because sometimes that makes them feel valued, right? That you're actually valuing their opinion. What would you like to see more of on my social media platform that I can provide you with? So really, again, social media is very much about valuable time and resources. Next slide, please. So this is really important to think about in terms of if you are going to be doing your social media management, or if you're going to hire somebody out, whether that is an employee, it's a part-time contractual person, or a consultant. You need to assess yourself, right, to see where there's areas for improvement or growth. And you also need to be able to assess your potential employee or that consultant that you're hiring to make sure that they're a good match for you. So I really like to, have my webinars kind of be a back and forth conversation, really try to understand what you already know about this. So in the chat box, go ahead and tell me, what are 2 qualities you think a social media manager should have? Give a little bit of time here.
And Carla, you can see the chat, correct?
Yep, I'm seeing them come through. Patience and consistency, creativity and diligence, organization and tenacity, friendly and good at grammar and spelling, creative and a good writer. These are all off, can I tell you, to a phenomenal start. I definitely will say consistency is huge. That ties into the time that we were talking about. Friendliness very much ties into what are my branding guidelines and standards. And that is also something that we're not talking about in this presentation as well, but really thinking about what your brand voice is, what your brand personality is, and whoever you hire, or if you're doing it yourself, even before you go on social media. And again, this presentation is specifically on social media. I can do a whole other, presentation on branding in general, but I'm so glad all of you are thinking about that right now. I see a common theme in terms of what you were all mentioning in terms of creativity, and we'll talk about that. I heard somebody mention about having good spelling and good grammar. We'll talk about that as well. And then I also saw somebody saying having a sense of humor, and that ties into your brand personality. And it also, I can say, out of everything, when you're talking about brand personality, that sense of humor is really important to do. What I want to call is social media listening first. So you really want to observe where your customers are on social media and what humor they're responding to, because you walk a very fine line when it comes to humor to make sure that it's resonating and you're not kind of crossing the line. But I can tell you, with the posts that I have done organically on social media, the best ones I have done tie into humor. Absolutely. So let's move on to the next slide and think about all the different qualities that either you should embody, or if you're writing a job description, what you should be listing, or if you're recruiting a consultant and you're having that conversation with them, that you're saying, okay, what's important to me, and do they match these qualities as well? So somebody mentioned grammar and good spelling. That kind of goes under that copywriter umbrella. So having really good copywriting is important. again, with what I was doing with consulting, what I would see, again, because it's time constraint, I would see a lot of really generic posts with my small business owner clients, probably because of time constraints. You don't want to have bland posts. If you're writing all in caps, if you're just copying and pasting or having the same writing over and over again, I highly recommend that you really explore copywriting. There's a lot of really good articles on the psychology of copywriting. Definitely start doing some keyword searches on calls to action. You want to make sure that you're varying the call to action verbs that you are using. So you're not always saying, learn more, read more, find out more. You want to vary that. And you want to make sure when you're doing the copywriting that it is reflecting your brand personality and voice. And once you start practicing that and embodying that, you'll start to see your customers really responding, especially if you show a more human element, right? So am I using the first person voice? I really encourage you using I, you, we, are when you're doing your copywriting. Next hat that you or that future person should be wearing is a multimedia producer. So what do I mean by multimedia? This is where we're talking about photography, graphic design, and especially now videos, because I can tell you with all the social media platforms, they put a high emphasis in the algorithms on videos. Time and time again, they perform well. They'll give more traction and result in more clicks and leads. Next, we're going to be looking at news curator. So what I was really good at when I was doing more of the organic social media posts is capitalizing on what is called newsjacking trends, which will then lead to shares, which will give you more brand exposure for your company. So this is going back to the time that you're using in curating content and doing your research. So what are people already talking about? With your business and your social media presence, you want to be engaging in conversations that people are already excited about, as long as it's relevant for your business. So you want to make sure that it ties in together. So, if they're talking about, for example, there's some sort of, a new moon coming out, or there's some sort of like astronomy thing. For example, when I was at the public library, hey, this whole astronomy, there's going to be a meteor shower, and I have resources at the library that tie into that. So if you can find a way, or hey, there's this special holiday, which is why it's always good to have looking up hashtag calendars, so you can research and project in advance what people may potentially be talking about. But this is why it's also good to kind of follow trends on Twitter and what people are currently talking about, because that's what people are already interested in, and then you can angle your business that way to kind of capture their interest. Next slide, please. So what a lot of people don't know that social media is an excellent tool to leverage for is being a customer service rep. So really thinking about, okay, what is my customer service policy and standards on social media, right? If I'm doing it myself, if I'm having employees doing it, so am I reviewing comments from employees who are monitoring my social media feed before they comment to customers? Am I empowering my staff with words that they can use? And of course, customizing it so it can be an authentic response. And what is my time response with responding to comments and direct messaging? Am I going to be using chatbots, and how personal and relevant are they to the typical questions that my customer asks on social media? And then also, how am I listening to conversations outside of my social media platform? And this is what we sometimes forget to do as small business owners, is sometimes people are talking about your products and services, whether good or bad, outside of your platform, and they can be like, hey, I had a wonderful experience with such and such a business, or hey, the shipping didn't arrive on time, or the product came back damaged, and they're talking about it in a public forum outside, which is why it's always good to monitor your keywords, your hashtags, and your mentions. So that way you can jump in and give them that stellar customer service before things can spiral there. Another thing people don't think about when it comes to social media is wearing the hat of being a community manager, because what customers really want to feel when they are on social media is what you want to feel as well, that you are part of a community. That, when you go to your favorite ice cream store, right? Or your favorite baked good bakery donut shop, and you're eating something, you're taking a picture of that, you're hoping that other people are going to respond to this deliciousness that you just ate. But you want to make sure that you're giving people a sense of belonging in relation to your product and service. And this is going to help give value and also increase the reach as well, because having that community management piece will also help with the sharing capacity as well. And then you want to be having either yourself or somebody coming into your staff who really understands what that funnel marketing process is. So how are you moving them through the attract, engage, and convert phase? And how is your social media content varying? Because typically what I want to tell you with social media compared with some of your other marketing platforms. So email marketing is primarily for that conversion phase. Social media tends to be more for the attraction phase. But if you do a good job of developing community and giving content that your customers want, you could potentially move them down to the conversion piece. But you want to make sure that you vary your content, because a lot of times what I see with small business owners is they try to really hit hard with a high percentage of those conversion piece, sales, sales, sales. And that's really not what people go on social media for. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Next slide, please. So here's a checklist of ideally what you should be doing daily, weekly, or monthly. And when we talked about 5 to 10 hours a week, that doesn't have to be a lump sum all in one day. And of course, if you pick the right social media management tool, you could get some of that out, say like schedule your posts, but you could kind of structure this where you're doing maybe a half hour in the morning, a half hour in the evening, especially when it comes to this daily piece. You want to make sure that you're replying to everybody who is commenting on your posts, your messages, checking your mentions. Like I said, monitoring for keywords. Are there any updates that you need to give about your business? Are you closing? Is there a holiday coming up? Is there a certain promotion that you're doing? Is there a certain employee you want to reward? Did a fabulous customer just stop by your building today, right? You want to make sure that you're checking out other people's profiles. So again, what's going really well in businesses who aren't competitors, and what posts are doing really well for businesses who are competitors, and how can you put your own spin on that? Curating content to share, because what I can tell you, if you are going to try the newsjacking strategy and you find something that's really great, but you schedule it a week from now, that conversation could unfortunately die out by that time. Making sure that you're engaging with social media ambassadors. And who are those? Are they family, friends, if you're just starting, staff members, if you're just starting, or are you finally getting a good customer base where you have people who are kind of really giving you positive reviews? Making sure that you follow back others who make sense for you as a business, and that you're connecting with new people, again, particularly with potential partners that increase your brand exposure. On a weekly basis, we're taking a look at checking what your stats are, understanding what posts are performing well and what aren't. Engaging with influencers. So influencer is different than an ambassador. So if you have paid or unpaid influencers, making sure that you are touching base with them. Again, engaging with partners, taking a look at what your SMART goals are, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and making sure, are you hitting those marks? If you have a team or even with yourself, holding a little strategy session, making sure that you're participating in other communities. So not only creating a community for yourself on your own business's social media platforms, but attending virtual events, attending hangouts, or if you're at a physical event, making sure that you're checking in and you're participating in that partner's event as well. And then this is also a good time to check your social media ads and see if there are any tweaking that needs to be done for that. On a monthly basis, you want to perform a social media audit. For those of you who don't know what a social media audit is, I've done a ton of those. It's really where you're assessing your platform and seeing from your profile to your frequency of posts to your types of posts. How well are you doing? Do you have your profile filled out as robustly as you should to get, again, the return of investment that you should be having? Coming up with what is called new experiments. The term is A/B testing. I definitely encourage that you take a look at that, but you should be taking a look at that on a monthly basis. And then always making sure that you're planning ahead for the next month. So that way you're not scrambling going, oh my gosh, the week just passed and I don't have anything coming up for the next week. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Next slide, please. So,
Carly, maybe we can just pause there for any questions that people have.
Absolutely.
So far. So please, just a reminder, folks can enter their questions into the Q&A box and we'll have Carly address them. All right. Well, why don't you go ahead, Carly, as those questions may come in.
Like I said, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
So SMART goals, for those of you who haven't heard of that, these can be applied not only for your general business and your general marketing, but specifically for social media or even individual social media platforms. So when you're making SMART goals, they should be specific. So, okay, I'm looking at, in my attract phase, I'm looking at getting and making sure that's measurable. I want to have about 3,000 people in terms of reach see my healthcare post, right? And I know it's measurable because I can quantify that 3,000, making sure that that's achievable. So if I have done a healthcare post in the past and I've only achieved 1,000 people viewing that post as a reach, that may not be as achievable. So maybe I want to move that down to 1,500 in terms of what my hopes are, making sure that it is relevant to what you're doing. So, okay, if my goal is to, increase my frequency and consistency on social media, and I want to make sure that I'm doing 5 posts a week, making sure that each of those posts is actually relevant to my business and my customers and my industry target. And above all else, making sure that it is timely. So, okay, I'm hoping to have, going back to that 1,500 reach, I'm hoping to achieve that within how many days? 3 days. And again, making sure that's going to be realistic and that you're actually going to go back and reflect and analyze that then. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So when we move to the next slide, I really want you to think about what you're already doing on social media, or if you're not on social media, what you're planning on doing, and think about what is a SMART goal you would like to do right now. And if you don't have an answer just yet, that's fine, but it's really something that I kind of want you to walk away from today's presentation. I'm hoping in the end of a week, I'm hoping to get 5 shares off my Facebook posts. I'm hoping to get 10 comments a week on my Instagram posts.
Carly, do you want folks to put that in the chat, some of their goals, if they feel like they can share?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And I'm not sure what the next slide, I think I may have a little prompt there for that. There we go. But I would definitely say out of any takeaway that you come from this webinar today, creating SMART goals, like I said, will help you not only with social media if you're not already doing this, but other areas of your business as well. I absolutely encourage you doing research on SMART goals. There are some excellent articles out there. With my clients in the past, there's a couple really good ones just on creating social media SMART goals and all the different questions that you should be thinking about, and great concrete examples of how you should create these SMART goals.
Okay.
So while you're thinking about that, because so far I'm not seeing anything so far, am I right?
Yes, I haven't seen any either. Yes.
That's okay. Can take some time to really formulate that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So what's really going to help you as a time saver is having a social media content calendar. So great. So I'm seeing, hitting 1,000 Facebook followers by Friday. So again, if you have 990 followers by Friday and you're averaging maybe 5 to 8 followers a week, that absolutely could be an achievable goal for SMART goals. So again, making sure that that is something that's achievable for you as well too. And then if that's going to be your SMART goal, what are you going to do then in terms of your strategy to help you get those extra followers? With the social media content calendar, I know some of you in the beginning of the webinar asked, how often should you be posting on social media when it comes to consistency? On Facebook, it should be 1 to 2 times per day. Twitter is a lot more often, 3 to 10. And for those of you with Twitter, most of the time, I don't recommend that small businesses are on Twitter unless you have a national or global product. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for you to be on Twitter. With the majority of the small business owners I've consulted, as well as other organizations I've worked for, I've not found it to be a really good return on investment yet. Instagram should be 1 to 3 times per day. Instagram stories 2 to 5 times per day. Pinterest with those pins can be a lot more, 3 to 20 times per day. And LinkedIn is really untapped for a lot of small business owners because people don't post on it frequently. Even if you just post 1 to 2 times per week, your business will already be ahead of the algorithms. The social media content calendar. Now, what's great about Facebook is it has a built-in content calendar for you to schedule posts ahead of time. But for all the other platforms, and also just to even do it a bit more in advance to really see overarchingly what your goals are on Facebook, you want to have a social media content calendar that's going to include what platform is it, date and time that you're going to be releasing this post, the copywriting portion, if there's going to be an image, and there should absolutely be some sort of visual, whether it's a photo, video, or graphic design piece, links. And again, you don't always have to have a call to action link with each post. You want to vary that. And also, if you're going to be sharing a link, making sure that you schedule that and experiment with that, and making sure your website is optimized to show that link. Making sure if there are any mentions of partnering organizations that you include those, any relevant hashtags, or if you're highlighting a certain holiday. And then tools that you should be looking at to create these content calendars with is your Google or Outlook calendar is what I tend to typically use. I've also done spreadsheets. You can also, again, use Facebook. And then there are paid platforms, HubSpot, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, CoSchedule, and Marketing Cloud. So I've utilized myself Hootsuite and Marketing Cloud, otherwise known as Social Studio, which would be the social media offshoot of Marketing Cloud. But you can also use other project management tools like Asana and Trello as well. Next slide, please. So you want to make the most out of your budget. And a lot of times when people think about budget, you really go to ads first, but you want to make sure that you're also allotting funds for especially the content creation piece. So if you're hiring a photographer, if you need a photo editing tool that's paid, particularly video with budget, are you paying any influencers or any copywriters? Your software and tools, do you need some help with SEO keyword search? Do you need one of those social media platforms that we talked about before? And also talking about analytic tools as well. So you want to make sure you have room in the budget for that. Also, training in human resources. So, making sure that you have money to train staff if necessary, you have budget to hire somebody to help you out. And also, there are a lot of really good professional development training that you can do. There's Twitter Flight School that I don't have on here. LinkedIn Learning is a phenomenal resource. Facebook Blueprint for ads. And like I said, definitely the human resource part with social media manager or team to kind of help you out with. And then lastly, you should be talking about advertisements. And again, that includes the influencer. If you're doing any co-branded campaigns, so okay, this fellow complementary business partner on Main Street is going to contribute X amount of dollars toward this ad campaign. And then your own individual platform ads. A lot of people ask me, well, how much money should I be spending on social media ads? And that really varies. You have to do the experimentation and see what your audience responds to on a smaller scale. And then if it resonates with them, then it's okay to go ahead and invest more dollars. Sometimes a simple experiment can be, for example, on Facebook for, I want to say, a 2 to 4 day time period, Thursday to Sunday, and maybe invest $25 to $50 once a month and see how that goes before you invest a higher dollar amount. Next slide, please. So we talked about SMART goals. Another word for that is the key performance indicators. And I also talked briefly about that marketing funnel with hiring somebody who understands the funnel. So moving from the attract, again, which is what social media is for, the engage level and convert, and these all look differently. And so I know we're approaching time soon. So I have some really good concrete examples here on what those stages look like, and you can kind of replicate that for yourself as well when you get the slide deck then. Next slide, please. So your return on investment. So what do you need to be successful on social media? Identifying your KPIs. This is highly important, making sure that your social media goals are aligned with your business objectives, right? So if your business objective is to increase customer foot traffic or website conversions on a certain sale, making sure that that's, going hand in hand, tracking your results and analyzing your results. And what are the benefits for doing all this social media management work? Your reputation, risk reduction, customer retention, because a lot of times we think with social media just attracting new customers, but really social media is really optimal for creating that customer loyalty. Brand association and exposure, which is why I can't emphasize enough that you know what your brand voice is and who your brand is visually before you put yourself out there on social media. And then trust and community building. And lastly, customer education. Next slide, please. So think about the social media management tools that you're already using, and feel free to go ahead and put those in chat box and share perhaps what has worked well, what you're curious about trying. Again, this is why these webinars with us getting together as a community is so beneficial to kind of do this idea sharing. And while you're thinking about that and contributing to our chat here, let's move on to the next slide so you can see some management tool suggestions and also some post creation. So Canva, Ripple, and PicMonkey for creating images, content management, Hootsuite and Sprout Social that I talked about before, BuzzSumo, Post Planner, Buffer, and Lately, again, all social media management tools. And lastly, I wanted to throw in some social media video tools, which would be, say, like Animoto, Adobe Spark. Of course, stock photo, stock video places are going to help you as well. Next slide, please. And lastly, when it comes to analytics, so content calendar, then you want to have your social media reports to really see how effective you're going to be. And you can have a variety of formats for this. Excel, Google spreadsheet to take a good look at your growth trajectory. All depending, again, when you're choosing a format, who is your audience, right? If it's for yourself, it's for your staff. If it's for stakeholders, PDF, perhaps with sharing for a team. Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Canva presentation, which is what I use now to create this slide deck for you for sharing as a presentation. You want to make sure that you're having an overview on how you're doing on social media and also an individual platform breakdown. And then what are your key learnings? So for those of you who have never done a marketing or specifically a social media SWOT analysis, I highly recommend that. It's something that I have helped clients with in the past as well. Next slide, please. All right, so we covered a lot. And again, any of these top 10 things I talked about could be a presentation in itself. But I would be really curious, out of like everything we've talked about today, what would be one thing that you would say, you know what, I haven't had a chance to try this, or hey, I've been doing this, but I think I'd be doing this differently in terms of social media management. What is one thing you learned today or wanted to take away right away to implement? Any thoughts? And while I'm looking for those in the chat box, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So this is not just applies for Facebook, this quote, but all of your social media platforms. Facebook is a discovery model platform. So this is why you're on social media. This is why your customers on social media, to discover something new and exciting, to discover new products and services, to discover community, to discover relationships, right? And its primary goal is to make the audience happy. So when you're doing your social media posts, what kind of feeling are you giving? How are you giving them that happiness? So you will only get that return of investment if you create quality content for your audience. And again, that's a whole nother presentation for social media strategy. But when you're doing your management piece, just making sure when you're experimenting that you're giving them something to discover. And I think I saw somebody had put through one of the things that they were going to learn today, which Mercedes, if I think remember correctly, was kind of that call to action verbiage with that copywriting hat that you have to wear.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, great. And then last slide. So this is me. I love to talk about all things marketing. And again, I would love to hear if there are any questions today. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me an email at csimonconsulting@gmail.com. But I can't thank you enough. And this is also an important investment of your time, that you took the time out of your busy small business owner schedule today to join SCORE and myself today. And I really hope you learned something valuable and had at least one takeaway today that will help you. So happy to be a part of this. And I encourage any questions if there's time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carly. That's very, very helpful. A lot of information packed in there. We do have a few minutes if folks want to put in some questions into the Q&A box. Carly can answer those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, again, this was a lot of material. If you have any questions after the fact, feel free to connect with me. but there's always going to be questions as you're moving through the social media process. There is never, I always tell my clients, never such a thing as a stupid question, because with social media, it is ever evolving and it's so tricky to keep up with everything. And I will highly recommend to everybody, especially the slide that I gave you with the social media management tools. What is phenomenal, because these social media management platforms also want to attract new customers. And as a result, if you sign up for their email marketing newsletters, or if you follow them on social media, they can give you a lot of really good, valuable content to help you with social media as well.
And just a reminder that SCORE is our organization, is a nonprofit organization, and we have mentors who have experience with marketing and digital marketing and things, as well as other skill sets. And you can get free mentoring services from SCORE. You can just go to our website and specifically look for a mentor, or just put in a request based upon your zip code, and you'll be matched with a mentor. You can go online to our website or call into our office. And here's the website. It's chesscodelcoscore.org. And I'm going to go ahead and launch just a quick poll. I would appreciate if we could get some folks' feedback on this session. We want to give feedback to both Carly and to SCORE so that we can make sure that we're bringing the best presentations to what you need as clients. All right, so if folks wouldn't mind responding to the poll, it's put up on the screen. In the meantime, there was a question that came in, Carly. Is the generic information page on Facebook a good start? Melissa is asking.
The generic information on Facebook. So I guess I'm trying to understand what aspect of Facebook we're talking about there for that question.
She's saying a generic information page. Is it good just to have for your business, just a generic information page for your business on Facebook?
So if we're talking about the profile aspect, I definitely would encourage to kind of, again, make sure that, your profile is going to be reflective of your brand personality, that it's going to be, optimized in terms of the category that you're looking for your audience. And that also, you can also kind of like anticipate some potential customer questions in that profile as well. And, trying to create a sense of community for whoever, lands on that page, giving a little bit. Sometimes with Facebook, you'd even give the story of your business as well. So I hope that kind of answers what the question was looking for there.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we are at time. Again, Carly, thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise. It was very, very informative, a lot of information packed in there. And everyone who's attending will be getting a copy of the deck and a recording of the session. So I hope everyone stays safe and has a good evening. And again, thank you, Carly.
Thank you so very much. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. I wish you the best success with your business and your social media endeavors. And hopefully I look forward to hearing from some of you. Thank you so much for letting me be a partner with you.